Hi, I'm Joshua Finn from J&H Aerospace, and today we're going to do a much requested video. We have sold a number of these P1B Sky Voyagers, and they are made in China. They are made by a very reputable individual who's flown Wakefield at the World Championship level. He does a phenomenal job on that, but he does not speak a whole lot of English, so a few of you have said, "No, I can't understand the instructions," and I understand that too. So we're going to do a build video on how to put these together and how to make them go, and I think y'all will see that this is a very good operating airplane. As I've mentioned elsewhere, I know a number of you have already lost them in thermals because they fly exceptionally well. So what I'm going to do is pull up the camera real close and we'll take a look and we'll get started and show you how to build these out. Okay, so what you're going to get is you're going to get this box, which is the box containing the Sky Voyager. This one's been opened. I hope I haven't lost any parts on this particular one. I do recommend, if you buy one of these, go in and check the parts inventory in it as closely as possible, because we have had a few come up with some parts missing. So we'll go over all of that. And we'll get that going. This one, I believe, is one that failed to pass quality control inspection because the mast is bent here. However, this one is still flyable. So let's go over things that you need to look for to make sure that are in this box. First of all, this guy needs to be in here, and it should be a lot further back. I recommend, well, it's not just an issue of recommendation, you're going to have to eventually line this up to where this wing mount sets so that your rear peg goes horizontally, because your rear peg serves as your alignment pin for the tail assembly. Now this we don't typically glue down because this allows you, since you can rotate this around, it allows you to set your stab tilt using the wing, slide it fore and aft to set the CG, and so on. Make sure you have your propeller in here. A lot of people complain, well, not some people, not everybody, complain that the propeller blades are a little stiff and whatnot, and some of them are, some of them aren't. What I have found is that you can spray Ballistol or something like that. Do not use WD-40. You can spray Ballistol in here in the propeller blades and they loosen up, which, by the way, the instructions do mention that. Check that your propeller slides. If you grab this thrust ring right here, check that the propeller slides fore and aft, and that as you spin the thrust ring around, then it pops forward into place. All your engagement looks good here. This is a sleeve to keep the propeller shaft from sliding forward. So if you notice, the shaft itself is captive, so it can't slide fore and aft. The propeller itself can. One thing you want to watch out, if you're flying this airplane and you run it into a wall or something while the propeller is spinning, that will tend, and this one's fitting good and tight, but it'll tend to drive this assembly back and push this pin out, and then that locking action right there is gone. So you'll have to pull your spinner out and shove this thing back. So just pay attention to that. This is a model airplane, and you have to respect the fact that model airplanes are fragile. This one is well designed, but it will break just like any other free flight airplane. And if you don't respect that, you're going to find yourself with a bunch of broken pieces, just like on any other model airplane. So don't let that part fool you that, oh, just because this is a beginner airplane, I can be mean to it and throw it around and stomp on it and all that kind of nonsense. I've gotten a few people who've given me confused looks saying, oh, well, it broke, and I ask what they did, and then find out, well, they were treating it like it was indestructible. This airplane was not designed to be indestructible, it was designed to fly. This is your tailboom assembly. You should have a forward tail cone bulkhead. You should have your rudder mounts here, and you should have a stab mount back here. Next up, this is a pulling rod that you use to pull rubber through. You can also use it as a mount for stretch winding your rubber motor. This is kind of soft metal, so it's designed to be easy to change the shape of it to be able to pull it through, but that also means if you start yanking on it, it's going to bend. Next thing up, this is your set of double-sided tape for attaching the flying surfaces. A lot of people have trouble manipulating this, so I'm going to show you how to do the entire thing with packing tape. So those of you that run into trouble with that have an alternative. You've got an accessory pack in here. It includes a spinner, it includes your wing shield, rear peg, and your stabilizer shields. Also includes 2 ballast pieces. Lastly, we have our wings. So you've got 2 wing panels. There is a carbon peg here. Do not lose this. And you have your stabilizer, and the rudder is hanging out underneath here. So with all of that, I will briefly pop open the instructions here, and you've got basically full page of assembly instructions front and back. And I think in comparison to a lot of beginners airplanes out there, these are excellent. Take your time, and they will explain a great deal. Bear in mind, these are from a model airplane competition perspective, because this airplane is marketed in China as a contest airplane, and it is in every way capable of delivering on that title. So with that, I'm going to get a couple things here, and then we'll pop it open and get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare the propeller assembly here. So I'm going to do 2 things. One is I'm just going to use the box here to shield this. I'm going to squirt a little bit of ballastol in here, and on that propeller hub. Now, notice I've avoided getting any back here. I don't want any back there because ballastol is a petroleum-based oil, and as such, it will attack your rubber. And so we just want to slide this front and back, and at that point things will loosen up. This propeller blade's a little on the tight side. It's starting to loosen up. I'll give it a little squirt over here. And it's starting to loosen up. Now, one thing you do want to watch is as you bang these propellers around, because some propellers do get banged around a little bit, these little retainer pins will loosen up. And what you want to do is get CA in there and glue it back on if it starts to come off. The problem is you don't want to get CA in this guy, so you want to put Vaseline or something on it to prevent the CA from wicking forward into there when you use CA to secure these little guys. And that one's loosened up enough for my satisfaction for now. So what we're going to do is we'll pop this one open, this bag of parts open, and I'm going to go ahead and dump a lot of this out. Let's see why in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spinner here, and I'm going to glue the spinner on. And you just use a bottle of CA to do that. Be very careful when you're doing this, though, that you don't get CA into the mechanism. So I'm just going around very edges here, trying to avoid getting into the mechanism itself. You notice there are 3 screws in here that will allow you to actually completely disassemble this hub, should you ever need to. Those of you who are into competition free flight in the US may actually find a usage case in which you would want to do that. If you're just sport flying, this will probably be something you'll never ever be concerned about disassembling. Alright, so now our propeller assembly is good to go. Now I'm going to wipe my hands off, because I want to avoid getting any of that oil on the airplane's mechanisms. And now what I'm going to do, sometimes the holes back here for all of this mechanism are a little rough, and seem to have left my knife elsewhere, as usual. Alright, here we go. So we can poke this peg through, and we just want to loosen it up. Loosen up the holes here and whatnot to ensure we get a good fit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the rubber supplied with the kit, and if you'll notice this rubber, if I can grab it here, it is scored so that you can actually split it. I'm not actually going to split the rubber. Instead, I'm just going to fly this airplane on 4 strands because I've found that that works well. So measure out so that you have a little bit of slack, about an inch extra here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 4 strands of this rubber, like so. Now, one thing I will point out to you, we import these airplanes direct from China, and all we do is a quality control check on them. We don't replace the rubber that's included. If you want to get better rubber, you can get Tan 2 rubber, which is markedly more durable. The airplane flies great on this rubber, which is really saying something, because the manufacturer of this airplane has, we've corresponded a lot, and he is unable to get actual contest rubber in any significant quantities. So this material really is just the same thing as regular rubber bands. Now I'm taking some silicon-based rubber lubricant and smearing it on the ends here, and the reason why I'm doing that is I'm about to tie this, and all rubber will cut itself if you try to tie a really solid knot in it while it's dry. And then your rubber will break at the knot if you do that. Now, if you notice, I tied an overhand knot, and then I tied a granny knot here in the end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dab of CA glue in the end of this piece of rubber, and that will keep that knot from trying to come untied. And now I'm going to come in with scissors, and I'm going to snip the ends. I'm not going to snip them flush. You'll notice I'm leaving a little out there, just enough that any contracting of the knot is not an issue. Now, this is Dow Corning 33 silicone grease. You can use Armor All. I really do prefer this stuff. ValaireProducts.com stocks it, and this is really an excellent rubber lubricant. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rub it into this rubber motor so that it's thoroughly in there. And don't wipe any of the excess off or anything. You want plenty in there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to position the knot for this rubber near the back, not all the way at the back. And I want to get these 2 loops of rubber to where everything is, to where they're equally tensioned here. And now I'm going to hook this with my little hooking stick. I'm going to slide this through. Come on, you can go. There we go. So I'm going to slide this guy through. And I've lost, there we go. There we go. And now what I want to do is make sure that as I'm doing this, hold on a second, I've got some, here we go. So you want to make sure you entrap both of these strands of rubber, and I messed up because I pulled it back through, and now I can't access it from the front. So there we go. Alright, so what I'm going to do is slide this guy through so that the rubber is pulled in here decently. I'm going to stick my rear peg through. And now I'm going to pull both of these guys back out, right like that. And now I'm going to give you, because I've gotten lots of questions, how do I hand wind this thing? Alright, this is going to be your first look at how to hand wind it. So what I'm going to do is I'm grabbing this thrust plate and I'm pushing forward with my fingers here. And this is a little awkward until you get used to it, but I'm using my fingers to hold this guy forward so that I can wind it up. And so we'll wind in enough turns here to start to load things up a little. Now you will notice the rubber tends to climb up on that hook. With round hooks like that, that's a tendency that you see. You can fly this airplane very effectively with that, but we'll do a video eventually where I replace one of the hooks on these with a reverse S hook, and you'll get to see even better performance. Alright, so I've got that locked in there. I've got my little keying thing on my thrust plate locking in there. So I pull the propeller all the way forward and we let it unwind, and eventually slides back and locks, which is what you want to have happen. So we'll set this assembly aside and we'll get started on our flying surfaces. So, what we're going to do, we've got two sets, we've got our two flying surfaces here. The instructions actually talk about going around and sanding and flashing off of the leading edge and the center section and all that, which I appreciate. Again, that's for if you're going to fly this in competitions or what have you. There's a lot of justification for doing that. You've got a molded in turbulator strip right here. This is not a mold line. This ridge is intentional, and do not sand it off or the airplane will not fly as well. I know that seems strange, but that is not there just to look odd or what have you. You have a molded in ridge for this carbon fiber spar now. So what I recommend you do is take some packing tape, and don't tear off the corner of it like I did. Instead, take this, and I'm going to use scissors to split my packing tape in half so that it's a little narrower. So what I'm first going to do with this laying carefully in place, that's not working. I've tried different orders on this, and that order is not one of my better ones, so here's what I'm going to do instead. So I'm going to lay my spar in place. I'm going to put my tape over here, just like this. And I'm just laying this tape down on the spar. And now what I'm going to do is bring my other wing panel in, line it up, and tape it on down. You want to get the tape on nice and smooth. Take your time with it, because any imperfections on the top surface of your airfoil damage the flyability of the airplane. And you say, but what about that ridge? Well, that ridge is positioned very exactly to specify a set airflow regime for this airplane. So I've got my tape wrapped around here. I've got a little tiny bit more on here. And wrap the tape back across. And there we go. So we're good on that. Now, since we're going to rubber band the wing on, there's some security issues there as far as, it coming off. Now, you can use the double-sided tape. It is die cut here, so what you would do is peel this tape up, and then you can actually get that tape loose there. I've had enough people have trouble manipulating that I'm going to show you a different way to do it. So I'm going to lay this guy in place, and then I'm just going to use packing tape to hold it down. This is not the lightest option, not the aerodynamically neatest or what have you, but this is another way that a lot of you who have trouble getting it to behave, this is kind of your alternative that should make it a little easier to work with. So what I'm going to do is notch this guy in here, front and back, and then I get the tape to lay down here. And again, it pays to take your time and get it right the first time. And so, there we go. And now our wing reinforcement is good to go. And so at this point, I actually can come in here. I can take one of these rubber bands, lap it across, and good to go. Next top, because we're almost done. What I'm going to do is slide my rudder mounts forward. And what we'll do instead, what we'll deal with next, sorry, is we will set up our mounts for the stab. Now the way this works is I want this forward mount positioned so that the leading edge of the stab leaves, let me hold this in place so you can see. I want that little notch on either side to be just in front of the leading edge of the horizontal stab, and then I want the back of this guy flush with that. I don't want a scenario in which this horizontal stab gets slid back or something like that so that it's off of this mount or the airplane is just not going to fly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some CA. There we go. And I'm going to lock this forward mount in place. The same thing with the rear one. And that way it doesn't slide around. You're good to go. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the tail fin mounts and respect the fact there's a trim tab there. So what I want to do is set this, so with my rudder sitting forward of the horizontal stab leading edge here, I want this mount to be forward of this hinge line that you can use as a trim tab. And mine's still a little close, so I'm going to slide it there. And then I will slide this. Oh, hold on. That one fits tight. So now I have my rudder locked in like this. It's not a rudder, it's a vertical stab. And now I'm going to secure this. And be careful doing this part because we are CAing foam, so make sure you're using a foam safe CA. Gorilla CA works great. If you haven't noticed, typically that is what I use for pretty much everything. Mercury brand foam safe CA is basically the same stuff. Alright, so now that's locked in and it's not going to go anywhere. You could use masking tape, or not masking tape, packing tape, but that's my preferred method. Now at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to mount this guy in place. And so what I want to do is I want to slide this in here in such a way that I don't get it stuck on the back of the rubber motor, because this is an important alignment here. And now what I'm going to do, remember, I want this thing to notch into my rear peg, so let it slide in and lock onto the rear peg. And now it's secure. Now watch this joint right here. If you bang this airplane around, this will break. And I don't have replacement parts for this, so you will have to glue it back together. So be gentle on this joint. It's relatively strong as model airplanes go, but I've seen way too many people tear these up, so be gentle on it. And I'm just going to say that in my experience, crashing is not what breaks this. 3-year-olds ripping on it does. Now, last thing, there are supposed to be some molded in marks here that will show you where these reinforcements go. And mine are very faint, so you're just going to have to do some guesswork. And again, these are designed to be double-sided taped down. I've found I fly my airplanes in a very abusive manner as far as certain things I do with them, and that means they're exposed to heat at times when they shouldn't be. And that means that mine have started wandering on my stab. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm putting a piece of tape just completely over this. Now, I already kind of marked where the center point was, so I'm going to put this tape down. I'm going to wrap it on around, and I'm going to make a mess. You want your tape to lay down flat, snip it where it wrinkles if it does, and there it now is your reinforced front mount. Do the same thing with the back. Now we've got an article upcoming that we'll post on our website on how to mount a dethermalizer on this. The little center hole in this part can be used to achieve that particular action. And so now I'm going to put this guy in here and mount it down. Alright, so there we are. Now what we'll do is we'll take another one of these rubber bands and we're going to pull this up through the slots like that. Now, and you should wait for your CA glue on those mounts to dry. I have not, and that means my rubber band is going to end up glued to that, and that's problematic because you want to be able to take this off for storage. Now, if you notice, my stab is crooked. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, shift this wing around, and now I'm skewed. And you have to work with this a little bit until you get all of that lined up. You can still see I've got some left stab tilt, and that's okay because I tend to glide these to the left. Now, that being said, I've set this up to where the airplane is tail heavy. I've got a piece of tape that's trying to peel up. That's because I've been handling that tape with the silicone lubricant on my hands. Not a great idea. I am going to tape a piece of this lead. It's not lead, it's steel. The front of the nose. Again, trying to get some of the silicone grease off of my hands and failing. And now what we'll do, stick this on here. Now at this point, we'll take the airplane outside and we'll get it gliding here in a few minutes. Like I said, get the silicone off of your hands. I've got silicone on the tape and it's not sticking like it's supposed to, and that's good quality tape I've got there, so I don't know what's going on. Well, I do. It's because I've got the silicone oil on it. Alright, so that has been the build video for your P1B Sky Voyager. I think we've covered most of the various points of confusion that people come to me with. One that does come up is, what about this rubber band that tends to get lost when you land? Well, there is one thing you can do, because I know people want to, secure the rubber band so they don't lose it. The point is, the wing weighs a significant amount of the fraction total weight of the aircraft, and so when you hit something, if the wing flies forward, which kicks it off of here, then that removes momentum from the crash. What you can do, however, is to come into the back here, and I can do a slip knot of the rubber band. Now I can slip it up over here. So what now occurs is I can slip this up over like so, and now in the event of a crash, wing slides forward and the rubber band stays attached. So those of you who want to know how to not lose the rubber bands, that's how you do it. The rest of you know that rubber bands on model airplanes are disposable, and you lose them often, and let's be realistic, the rubber inside here is going to wear out fairly quickly. Probably more so than like Tan 2 rubber, but Tan 2's, Tan Super Sport, even Tan Super Sport wears out fairly quickly. So you need to have replacement rubber going on. If you're going to fly this airplane for any length of time, the rubber band is going to wear out. That's a disposable element in rubber-powered airplanes. So, with that, like I said, this is the build video for this airplane, and we'll have a segment after this where we'll go out and trim it. But questions, comments, put them in the comments section below, and hope to see you at the field flying these. I think they're a really good airplane, probably, arguably the best beginner's free flight airplane ever created. So, we'll see you later. Hi, I'm Josh Finn. This is Hope. We are J&H Aerospace.
If you like this video, hit the like button.
Also, how about subscribe to our channel and check out jhaerospace.com for new free flight products and all of the tooling that you'll need to build them.
Thanks for watching.